One that I'm really interested in though is the orb. Now you can see the orb on the iPad next to me here, and again it really only does itself justice by playing around with it, because I've got effects here like reverbs. Again, I could use common effects, like again I could add in a spring reverb there, or actually I might just use a proverb. It was add in a little bit of that. Let's see how that sounds. So you got a really nice sound there. In fact, let's just try some of the others. Let's try an easy verb. Yeah, I preferred the Pro. Let's go for the Pro. And then we can go into the orb. Now, the orb is a very interesting thing, because you can get some very interesting elements from this, almost not knowing what it's doing. Because again, if I throw the orb on here, I can then just move this point around, as you can see it moving on both the iPad and on the plugin window here. And obviously, I can just take that and I can just move that around straight away. You might see a little offset on screen because of the communication time with the screen capture, but essentially it's pretty tight. So as you can see, it's moving now without me really touching it at all. It's kind of got its own mind, it's got its own physics. So let's play a key and see what happens with it. So the amount of movement that you've got there is absolutely breathtaking through utilizing something like the orb. So again, it's now got its own physics and its own movement, because we have an option on here on the TR Omni app, the Omni TR app of inertia. So if I turn that off, what you'll see is that it stops. And again, I can move that to pretty absolute positions. Which means I can modulate stuff in real time. Now, what's super cool about the orb apart from that is you can start to bring a little bit of randomness to your patches. Because again, you've got this option here called dice. So if I was to give that a little tap, doesn't look like it's done much, but let's play another note and see what it's done. Because what it will do is it will randomize various envelopes, modulation sources, and effects in order to give your sound a different look. So let's have a listen. Hit that again. And obviously the more effects that you add, the better. So if we go to our common effects here, I can again grab, move this down into the next slot. Or even if I move this up, I can then go to, say, for example, distortion. And we could go into, where are we? Amplifier, creative. Looking for something like let's go for something like a toxic. Why not? I think it's a bit more of a bit crush type vibe. Hit dice again. So you can just hear a huge amount of movement that is not very easy to get any other way. So what we can also do then is, again, add in the inertia and just play notes. So again, just knock that off in a bit of a direction. So yeah, you kind of get the idea that the inertia in the attractor brings it back to that central point the whole time. Now, you could also go into some really interesting details here, because you can actually, on the left-hand side here, you can record the motion, and you can actually have it over. If you use motion, you can actually go over 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bars, or you can go from song position or legato, which means basically it won't trigger every time there's a new note. So if you put that into legato mode and then put it for 2 bars and I hit record, if I play along with this now, because again it's synced to the project tempo, so it's at 120, so I could then play there you go. So if I play that again, now you get into complex chords, you can see that movement is consistent. So it's really, really great. And, you know, it really is like synthesis for, you know, people who don't really want to dig in too deep, but you can go really, really crazy. And again, it differs per patch. This is only really doing some basic stuff to give you an idea of how things work as an example. But when you get into some of the main patches, you can start to really get into some interesting stuff here. So that's a lot on the orb. Now there is more to go through here, because obviously I can clear that recording and go back to the beginning. Again, utilizing our logic of, well, if I want to do more with this, right click. Now, if you right click, you actually get the same possibilities, because let's say, for example, I can enable host automation on what's called angle. So if I move the angle there, you will see we've now got an angle on the orb. If I right click, I can then switch to what's known as radius. Give that another little wiggle. Just put that configuration back on. Some reason my oh, it's because I've not enabled host automation. That'll be why. There you go. Take your own advice, Paul. So you've got angle and radius. So I could then, in the context of push, for example, change the angle using one smooth control and then move the radius out, and I can essentially get it to orbit in very, very accurate terms. So the creative possibilities and consequences of this are, you know, quite interesting. So let's play a note with that. So you can be a lot more accurate about the positioning of the orb this way. So again, enable and host automation, very, very cool. Now, the funny thing is that you've also got the ability to show the modulation, which doesn't seem to be doing much at the moment. If I was to, yeah, okay, not quite working the way I thought there. However, one thing I will show you is this. I go to max for live here, and I've got an LFO here. What I can do is that I can map, let's say for example, the radius, and I can decide what depth it goes to. Or I could do the same with the angle. And I can decide over what kind of movement we go for here. Might be over 2 beats. Again, I can be a little bit more accurate with the radius to be where I want to be. And again, utilizing the orb in this way, very, very interesting and very suitable. As you can see, we've almost by accident here created a very powerful Omnisphere instrument rack, which would serve us in many, many, many different situations.